I will go ahead and call the meeting of the August 21st, 2025 TRPA Hearings Officer to order. It's 2 p.m. My name is Marcia Birch, and I'll be serving as the Hearings Officer today. First item on the agenda is approval of the agenda. I see we have 3 items. Have there been any changes?
There have not been any changes.
Okay, then I'll go ahead and approve the agenda as it was posted. Third item is public interest comments for no action. Any member of the public who wishes to address the hearings officer on any item that is not listed as a public hearing item on the agenda may do so at this time. Public comments on any public hearing item will be taken at the time those agenda items are heard. The hearings officer is prohibited by law from taking immediate action on or discussing issues raised by the public that are not listed on the agenda. So Jessica, we'll start there in the room. Is there anyone who would like to make a public interest comment?
There are no members of the public in the room with us, so I will ask line. Any member of the public wishing to comment, please raise your hand now using the raise hand button at the bottom of your Zoom screen, and I'll call on you. There are no hands raised to comment.
All right, then I will close the public interest comments. Item number 4, announcement of appeal rights. Any decision of the hearings officer is appealable to the TRPA governing board. The notice of appeal, which can be found on TRPA's website, and associated fees must be filed within 21 days of the hearings officer's decision. All right, so that brings us to our public hearing items. And like I said, we have 3 items on the agenda today. We're going to start with 5A, Able Land Capability Challenge, 88 Moana Circle, Placer County, California. Assessor's parcel number 098-191-004, TRPA file number LCAP 2025-0083.
My page got a little corrupted here. I'm going to have to take a second and open up site plan.
Okay.
Do you want me to wait, or should I start talking while you do that?
No, Julie, you can go ahead.
Okay, this is for the record, Julie Roll, Senior Planner at TRPA. And as Marcia mentioned, this first project is a Land Capability Challenge. It was reviewed by TRPA soil consultant Marcelle Moneke. And based on her evaluation, staff recommend adjusting the land capability from class 5 to classes 4 and 6, as well as redelineating the class 1A and class 1B areas. And actually, Marcelle was unable to join us today for the meeting, so she wanted me to share the following summary. The parcel is located on the west shore of Lake Tahoe on the south side of McKinney Creek. A portion of McKinney Creek stream terrace is on the parcel, and a smaller side channel comes into the parcel from the highway and merges here. The upper portion of the parcel was mapped as talak soil, which is characterized as root-restricted silica cemented horizon and seasonally perched groundwater. This is typically suggested by the presence of moisture-seeking vegetation, such as dogwood, Sierra currant, and thimbleberry. However, none of these species were observed on the upper parcel. One soil pit was excavated on the upper parcel, and Marcelle determined that the soil does not have a silica cemented horizon or signs of perched water table like a talak soil. It has a similar texture to meek soil, but a meek soil also has silica cemented horizon. Therefore, the soil is unlike any soil mapped in the 1974 soil survey, so it's considered an unmapped soil. And based on slope measurements, qualifies as class 4 and class 6. And then the class 1A, 1B, and 5 areas were redelineated based on just more accurate slope measurements. So that's all I have for this one, and I have not received any public comments on this item. All
right, thank you, Julie. Now, is there anyone here on behalf of the applicant who would like to say something?
Yeah, hi Marcia. This is Gary Furamoto, and I'm representing the owner, John Abel. We have reviewed the staff summary and agree with the findings and have no objections.
All right, thank you, Gary. So I'm going to go ahead and open this one up. I don't have any additional comments or questions, the staff report, and that was actually very helpful, Julie, that Marcelle put together that summary. So let's open it up for public comment.
There's no members of the public in the room, so I'll go online. If any member of the public online wishes to make a comment, please raise your hand now by clicking on the raised hand button at the bottom of your Zoom screen. There are no hands raised to comment.
All right, well, thank you. I will go ahead and close the public comment and take action. I will approve the land capability challenged as proposed in the staff summary.
Thank you, Marcia.
Thank you, Gary. All right, so we will now move on to item 5B. This is demolition of a historic resource, banking of coverage and residential unit of use, 732 Cedar Street, Douglas County, Nevada. Assessor's parcel number 1318-10-310-040, TRPA file number VBOU 2025-0683. All right. I forgot to check and see which staff member has this item.
Mine again. This is
Oh,
Julie,
okay, Julie.
Senior Planner for TRPA. And yeah, so this project involves the demolition of a cabin located in Zephyr Cove Unit 1 Historic District and banking of land coverage associated with the cabin and one single-family residential unit of use. There's no plan to rebuild on this parcel at this time, so any future redevelopment will be submitted to TRPA as a separate application. So right now, we're just looking at the demolition and banking, verification and banking the coverage and development rights. As a condition of the permit, it will be required that the site is restored and revegetated, brought back to a natural state. So that would have to happen before the coverage and the residential unit would be banked on site. The existing cabin's a contributing resource to the historic district in Zephyr Cove, which means that the demolition of the structure triggers a requirement for a resource recovery plan to be submitted to TRPA as mitigation for the loss of the historic resource. A historic resource recovery plan is a document prepared by a qualified architectural historian that documents the history and significance of the property. It includes photos of the existing structures. The document is required as a permit condition, will be reviewed and approved by TRPA. And then we always require that it's donated to the local historic society or library. So that'll all happen as part of the permit acknowledgement phase. And that's really all I have as far as a summary. We did receive a few public comments. So do you want me to get into that straight away, Marcia?
Yes, let's go ahead and have you summarize those public comments.
Sure. So we received 3 public comments, and they were all posted on our website ahead of the hearing with the rest of the meeting materials, and it was also uploaded to the project file so they can be found there. The first comment was just regarding a shared power pole with an adjacent property and concerns that power could be affected during the demolition. So I think the applicant's going to address that when they make remarks in just a minute. So I'm going to go on to the other comments, which were just addressing the loss of the historic cabin and requesting that it be preserved instead of demolished. So I just wanted to really state that, TRPA does encourage the preservation of historic resources, but the TRPA Code of Ordinances does not provide authority for us to prohibit demolition so long as they meet the required mitigation. So in this case, they're producing the resource recovery plan as part of the project approval. So that would satisfy our requirements and allow for the demolition. And I'm happy to answer any other questions about that.
Okay, actually, I don't have any additional questions, Julie. I think your assessment is correct. As if they can meet our code requirements, then they can move forward with the demolition. So Julie, did you mention the comment regarding the power?
Yes, I mentioned that first, and I think either Shannon, who's on the line with X Line and Company, or the owner, I believe, is also online. So I think we had discussed, and they said they could address that.
Okay.
Just with the logistics of construction and all that, they are better equipped to answer that.
Right. Okay. that sounds good. Thank you, Julie. So why don't we go ahead and hear from the representatives for the applicant?
Hi, Marcia. I'm Shannon with Xline and Company, and I actually do have Brett on the phone as well, the owner, on the meeting. We discussed this earlier this morning, and as you can actually see in the first front photo, our line comes off of a public power pole right in front of the property. So we're not quite sure what the gentleman on 751 Lincoln Highway is referring to, because he's stating in his public comment that it comes back up from Lincoln Highway and then splits, but ours comes from the front. So, I mean, either way, they'll make sure that right there you could see the power coming in from the front of the property, which is Cedar. So not quite sure. I don't know if it was maybe an old line that came in back in the day before they put the power poles in, but we'll make sure. We'll be 100% certain that during the demolition that 751 Lincoln Highway has no disruption to their power.
All right. And I noticed that in addition to the comment about, concerned about there being a disruption in power, there was an expressed sort of preference for undergrounding power there, which is sort of beyond the reach of this hearings officer meeting. But I would just, I guess, note that I don't know, whether or not that's feasible or if the rest of the neighborhood would have to be involved.
Right. And I think even if we did do it to 732 Cedar or 751 Lincoln Highway would have no benefit from that, because I'm not quite sure where their line comes in. I have not looked at their property. So
Okay. All right. Yeah, I mean, that satisfies any concerns that were raised in my mind with respect to that comment.
thank you.
Okay, is there anything else you would like to address? I'm assuming that you were able to review the staff report.
Yep, just wanted to say that we reviewed the staff report and we agree and have no objections. Our resource recovery plan is already in the works with the Environmental Science Associates, and we'll be distributing it as per the permit requires to TRPA, and donating it to I believe there's 5 historical societies around the lake so that they can have access to the information.
Oh, okay, great. Thank you. All right, Jessica, let's go ahead and open this up for public comment.
Okay. If there's no members of the public in the room, I will go online and ask if anybody online would like to make a comment. Please raise your hand now using the raise hand button at the bottom of your Zoom screen. There are 2 comments. Carlene Johnson, please unmute yourself and make your comment.
I just want to clarify that I heard that there are no current plans to do anything but demolish the home. No further building on there. And if that did occur, it would have to come before you and be approved by your committee. Is that correct?
I can answer that. Yes, it's correct that right now we're only looking at the demolition. As far as I understand, there's no immediate plan. Maybe the applicant can address that. But anything that happens on there would have to go through another TRPA permit. Now, whether that would trigger the need for another public hearing, I'm not sure. There are specific triggers in our code of ordinances. So often, like a residential remodel wouldn't necessarily trigger a public hearing, but at the very least, it would be the project files and everything are available online for the public to view if there's anything submitted. And Shannon do you have anything to add on that?
And at this time, this is all preemptive for a future project. So, we're getting everything in line to demolish us in the future for a future single family residential project.
Which would have to be approved by the historical committee?
This one, once it's demolished, it would not go back through historic review. I mean, it would have to conform with design guidelines and anything required by the Zephyr Cove Historic District and by TRPA design guidelines. But other than that, it doesn't trigger any other historic review.
Okay, thank you.
Next person, Brian Murray, please unmute yourself.
You got me now?
Yes, I
Yes.
can hear you.
Excellent, thank you. I'm the owner of 751 who wrote the power question, and I would like to apologize. I had the wrong house completely, so ignore it. I'm like, what do you mean it's coming in from the other side? There's another, yeah, there's another old house right next door to this one, and to be honest with you, I didn't check the address, and I just assumed that that was the one that was going to come down because he has been talking about taking it down for 3 years. So my apologies, wrong house.
No worries. Thank you.
Thank you, Brian. Okay,
Carly Johnson's hand went back up again, Marcia.
right. Let's go ahead.
I
ahead, Arlene.
I am the owner of the cabin next door, and there has been zero talk about us demolishing our property, just so everyone knows. So that's why I'm really concerned about what's going to go in next door to our historical property.
Thank you, Carlene.
There are no other hands raised to comment.
All right. So I don't have any additional questions. I did review all of the findings and the staff summary. So I'm going to go ahead and close the hearing and take action on the project. I'll approve the findings contained in the staff summary, including a finding of no significant environmental effect, and approve the project based on the staff summary, subject to the conditions contained in the draft TRPA permit.
Thank you very much.
Right. Thank you, everyone. We're going to go ahead and move on to item 5C. This is Bird's Nest, Tahoe Coalition for the Homeless, change in use, motel to multifamily dwellings, 2215 Lake Tahoe Boulevard, City of South Lake Tahoe, California. Assessor's parcel number 023-211-022. TRPA file number ERSP 2024-0360. All right, this is Allie's item.
Yes, so I'm Allie Borowski for the record. And this project involves changing use from an existing 21 unit motel, tourist accommodation units, and residential manager unit, which is a single family dwelling unit of use, to a 21 multifamily residential unit of use with a residential manager's unit. So multifamily and single family are both allowed on this parcel. This project includes converting 21 TAU to 21 MFRUU. And as a result of the conversion, 7 TAUs will be banked upon completion of this project.
Demolition approved.
This project will also be for affordable housing. And because of that, this project will be exempt from contributing to the Mobility Mitigation Fund. And also because of that, or no, that's it for that. Also, our code section 31.4.5 states that when TAUs are converted to multifamily, they may maintain their existing densities. So allowed density today would be 12 units, but because of that code section, they're able to keep the density currently on site. So they will ultimately be required to record a TRPA deed restriction for affordable housing to take advantage of that Mobility Mitigation Fund exception. And I think that's it.
All right, thank you, Allie. Is this, are these units occupied now, or are they truly used as, tourist overnight units?
So the Tahoe Coalition for the Homeless, I think Nicole was going to be joining online and she could speak to this a little bit better than I could. They have owned this structure, I think, for over a year now. And so, yeah, it's not currently rented as tourist accommodation units.
Okay,
Nicole.
but it is occupied.
Correct.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Okay, I was just curious if it's sort of already sort of providing housing. And so this
Yes.
change, yeah, okay.
Yes. Hi, I'm Nicole Zaborski. I'm one of the board members of the Coalition for the Homeless. And since we purchased the property in 2020, the property has been fully occupied. So we've already gone through the change and use for with the building department with the city of South Lake Tahoe, and have the property fully occupied.
Okay. And
Mhm.
so the city approved the change from the motel units to a more permanent situation.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, and when did that approval take place?
Um, I don't have an exact date for you.
Okay. I'm assuming between 2020 and today.
Yes, yes, absolutely. Yes, yes. I'm not sure
Okay.
if it was in 2020 or 2021, but correct.
Okay,
Yes.
so it was
Mhm.
shortly after you acquired it.
Correct. Yes, that we did not
Okay,
have that many changes to do to comply with the single room occupancy for the city with this particular property. There was just some minor upgrades we had to do, and we've done those. And then have the property fully occupied, including the manager's unit.
okay. And do
Mhm.
you know what the age of this building is? Sorry to pepper you with these technical sort of questions, but I'm curious about the age of the units, thinking about that deed restriction, which is in perpetuity.
The age of the building, I would
Yeah,
have to look on the assessor's record unless Ally has some.
Marcia, we do know it is older than 50 years old. Exact date, I can look that up, but yeah, it's
okay,
gonna be more than 50 years ago.
okay. And these will be used as rental units, rental apartments.
Correct.
Yes, I'm not sure if you're leading into the fact of like rent, but a lot of tenants don't pay much, if any, because it's based off of income. And if you don't have income, you don't pay. Um, but
Okay,
we go off
okay,
of the HUD housing requirements as far as who we are housing and how they are identified as far as individuals in the community.
okay,
We
all
we
right.
use the HUD standards. Mhm.
Okay, okay, thank you. That's what I
Yes.
was curious about.
Yes,
Um,
yes, yes. So they have to meet up the by name list. I'm not sure if you're familiar with that. So they have to undergo an intake process and then meet certain criteria. And then when we have the next housing unit available, it goes to the next person who is most vulnerable in the community.
okay, okay,
Mhm.
thank you. That
Yes.
is helpful.
Hmm.
Um, and I'm just looking there's a deed restriction requirement.
Yes. So
There,
we
yeah,
currently have one that exists with the state, and that's a 50-year deed restriction. And then the TRPA will be in perpetuity.
okay,
Mm-hmm.
all right. Yeah, I see that here.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, thank you. That answers my questions. Ally, have we received any public comment?
We did not receive any public comment.
All right. Well, then let's go ahead and open it up to public comment now.
Okay, since there's no members of the public in the room with us, I'll go online. If any member of the public online wishes to comment on this item, please raise your hand now by clicking on the raised hand button at the bottom of your Zoom screen. There are no hands raised to comment on this item. There was one hand up, Crystal Plotner. I wanted to give her a chance in case her hand went back down for some reason. Yep, there it went back up. Mute you, Crystal.
Hi, sorry, I'm Crystal Plotner with the City of South Lake Tahoe Housing Division, and I believe Jessica Wackenhut Lamelli was trying to join in. There were a couple of questions that were asked that she would be able to answer if you still wanted. It was some of the details about the property, but if that's not necessarily relevant anymore, I can let her know that she doesn't need to hop on.
I actually, so if she's willing to come on, Crystal, and speak to sort of the, I guess the condition of the building, I am interested in that.
Okay, thank you. I am trying to, sorry, she is in a concurrent meeting as well, and she is trying to
Oh.
join right now. Oh, here she
okay.
comes.
Okay.
She wants to know about the condition of the building and your. Hi, this is Jessica Wackenhut with the city.
Hi, Jessica.
Hello.
I was just asking some questions about, when you're putting a very long-term deed restriction on a property, I just had a question about the current condition, and it sounds to me like the way that this property will be managed, there will be funding for maintenance over time.
But you gotta go through a time buyer.
That's correct. So that's part of their funding strategy with all three of their properties is the way that they collect rent, as well as some of the funding sources allow that ongoing revenue source and some of the project-based vouchers that are attached to the units.
Okay. Yes, that was what I was curious about.
Yeah, and in addition to that, through the city's multifamily development program, we do annual inspections of these properties. And so that will be ongoing as well. So we ensure that the quality and stability of the housing is intact annually.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Thank you for stepping out of your other meeting.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks for
Okay.
waiting for that.
All righty. Okay. So,
Marcia?
yes, go ahead.
I just got a message from Madeline up front, and she said she got a call from somebody named Seth Picker, and he said his public comment was not included in today's meeting. And then he tried to participate in the meeting online, but the matter was closed. I can't go and check online, but I'm wondering if there's anything that we can do for him at this point.
So I do have a comment from Nicole Picker.
Okay.
And that was regarding the Cedar Street project?
I believe so. Madeline didn't state which project it was. I recognize the name Picker too as a public comment, but I wasn't sure if Seth was included.
Yes, and that was a comment regarding the historic nature of the property and a request that they not be allowed to demolish it because the other folks in the neighborhood enjoy it. But as we mentioned, that's not within TRPA's authority so long as they can meet the code requirements. So, and that item has been closed. We did receive the comment from Nicole Picker. So I think that issue has been addressed.
I just wanted you to be aware.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so if we have any other comments regarding item 5C.
There are no members of the public in the room, so let me check online. Any members of the public wishing to comment on this item, please raise your hand now by clicking on the raised hand button at the bottom of your Zoom screen. There are no hands raised to comment.
Okay. So I've had my questions answered. I'm going to close public comment and take action on the project. I will approve the required findings, including a finding of no significant effect, and approve the proposed project subject to the conditions in the draft permit. All right, so that concludes all of our hearing items today. So we can adjourn. It is 2:29 p.m. Thank you, everyone.